Welcome back to AI Data Mastery, where we explore how AI and data are reshaping B2B businesses. I'm excited today, but first, a quick thanks to our sponsors, Data Accelerator and Evolve with AI. We appreciate you helping keeping the lights on. I'm your host, Jason Reno, and today's guest comes straight from one of the industries being absolutely transformed by AI and data, which is precision manufacturing. Eric Levin, who's with me today, the sales manager at CIM, Computer Integrated Machining, works at the front of the lines where complex parts, tight tolerances, and high stakes meet production and modern technology. Wow, that was a mouthful. So if you've ever wondered how AI automation and real-time data are reshaping American manufacturing and how companies are using it to win big, you're going to want to listen to the rest of this episode and hear our conversation. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Eric. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Jason. Happy to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you helping us out. So let's I know we did our pre-show talk, but can you jump in and tell us just a little bit about your background and your path to becoming the sales manager there at CIM?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm first and foremost from the San Diego area, so born and raised here. Did kind of all my education. San Diego State graduate, so very local. I originally was in actually the crypto industry after college there, after my undergrad, and kind of did some marketing, got some experience there, a little bit of production. It was an exciting time. Obviously, COVID came in, and there was a lot of buzz and some issues there, so funds got frozen. There was definitely a slowdown. I transferred into a little bit more of a passion industry for me. I got into this about a year and a half ago. Now I was doing planning originally, helping with our kind of production, getting everything in line and going there as far as our actual manufacturing planning, and then kind of switched into more customer interactions. Eventually stepped onto the sales team, helped out there. And after a short time, it's about maybe 4 or 5 months there, I kind of integrated into the sales management role and started leading the team there with all of our kind of marketing and business development approaches.
Wonderful. That's sounds great. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing, or traditionally what CIM has done to for their client acquisition process? Mass emails, trade shows. What have you been doing, or what has been done over the years to scale the business to where it is today?
Yeah, so definitely a storied history of this company. We just passed our 30-year mark, actually. Just
Wow,
this month.
congratulations.
Yes, very, very nice. I myself have only been here for, like I said, about a year and a half. So definitely the new man on the ship there in that sense. But traditionally, a lot of the normal what you would assume would come from the marketing ventures. A lot of the expos, mostly local expositions, local companies, kind of in. Obviously, it's San Diego, so there is a significant presence for the defense industry, for maritime especially. Aerospace is not too far away. So
I was going to say, you have Camp Pendleton here, you have bases, you have all kinds. For those that don't know the area, I'm in San Diego as well, but yeah, there's a lot of military and armed forces around here for sure. Some local bases and stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. The bases themselves, beyond that, there's significant presence from a lot of the big names, the General Dynamics, General Atomics. There's significant BAE systems. So a good mix of a lot of the big names, which kind of has fed the company that and other local customers around here for a good time. Within the last, I would say, 3 to 4 years, from talking around and just seeing our kind of approach there was more of an integration into it, kind of incorporating more of the email campaign list, shooting out a little bit more of the cold calling, outreach stuff, but still very kind of tame. When I myself stepped into the role, I got to bring on a lot more of the kind of new age, what I like to say, that the tools. So I like to get into a lot more of the targeted marketing, utilizing LinkedIn Navigator, getting lists for targeted prospects, going in through a couple other softwares. ZoomInfo is a great one. Hunter, a couple of different softwares around there that I believe Apollo was a third, to kind of find different contact information for potential buyers. and then running those through the automated campaigns, doing kind of hit lists there, through your email campaigns. Getting back to a little bit of the cold calling still, mixing that in, having some fun there. A lot of the or outreach with the expos and whatnot, just doing a lot more branching out though. So just this past year, we flew out to Detroit. We were there for the AeroDef conference. We were in Salt Lake City just this past June for the small satellite show. So there's been a lot more of kind of targeted outreach, making more connections kind of with industry people. I know that there's specific targeted events, which kind of we found a nice niche for with our avenue, being able to branch up to kind of the OEMs and those primes customers that we're looking to really deliver with. So that's been a big help. I've also started to incorporate a little bit more of some software, especially when you get into the SAM, DoD contracts, which we can get into a bit later, but you get into a lot more of that software. And for some of our listeners that are out there in the industry, they'll know it gets a bit complex when you're looking through a 60-page request for trying to really decipher what they're wanting you to quote there. So there's definitely been some softwares that have helped out here and there.
I can't even imagine. I mean, the paperwork you have to do just to like renew your driver's license, for lack of a better, or, like the most simplest things take paperwork and are annoying as what. I can't even imagine what goes into like a government contract when you're asking them for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for contracts and long-term commitments and all that other stuff. That itself must be like a mind-numbing process, huh?
Absolutely. Yeah. It can definitely be like playing Where's Waldo at times, looking for the information.
Gotcha. So for your like email marketing and trade shows, specifically for trade shows, do you find actually sponsoring the trade shows beneficial, or do you and a couple other like sales guy or business development guys, do you just go walk the floor, or do you actually sponsor the events?
Yeah, so it's definitely a fair mix. There's a couple of shows that it's generally easier to being honest. If it's a local one, there's a great significant presence of aerospace up in the Long Beach, LA area. It's a couple of shows here in San Diego where it just makes sense, and it can be beneficial definitely to show, to have our own booth. Obviously, though, you got to get down to the sheer economics of it. Sometimes it's you're balancing that budget of, hey, I got to spend I want to spend for marketing, but I need to pay off these machines, or I need to make sure I can keep the lights on, and whatever it may be. So, a lot of the times, hey, we've had some shocking ones where they say, a booth will be $15,000 for this show, and it's like, that's just outrageous. It's kind of out of the question. It might take your entire annual marketing budget on one show sometimes. So walking them is a lot more feasible in those kind of instances, but still can be a great time. And really what I try to tell people, the most crucial part is taking advantages of the extracurricular kind of activities outside of the events. So those breakfasts, the lunches, those cocktail hours, for sure the cocktail hours, those mixers. I mean, 1, 2, 3 of them. I tell all my sales team, we're going to sign up for all of them, and we're going to find out, and sometimes we'll split up. And
I was going to say, and then you divide and conquer, right?
Absolutely. You got to show face.
Yeah, you'll be amazing what happens, when somebody gets a couple cocktails in them, all of a sudden they're a little looser and more friendly and willing to talk to you, right?
Completely, yes. Absolutely can change the game.
Absolutely. The problem is if your sales guys start boozing a little too much, then they're hungover the next day, though, right? But I'm sure that doesn't happen in your scenario.
Oh yeah, no, never.
In my previous life, well over 10 years ago, I used to be in the mortgage business, and we used to go to these like training conferences and stuff. And I was just looking around. I was like, this is literally just an excuse for everybody to like ditch their family, significant others, and go to Vegas for a weekend or something. Like, it's how much business really gets done. But I guess it all ties back to the effort you put into it, and staying focused on the task at hand. What about email marketing? What type of do you go, is it very targeted people that are already interested in your business, or is this just like kind of buying a cold list from a ZoomInfo or Apollo and taking more of the spray and pray approach?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both, honestly. There is definitely that kind of spray and pray approach a little bit. There is some targeted marketing. We're using a little bit of stuff to monitor site traffic, and so we're seeing who's visiting us. to be honest with the targeted approaches, when you're kind of trying to do that initial outreach, there is a lot more of that spray and pray. I say that the ZoomInfo and the Apollos there are a bit random, but you can get pretty in depth there and pretty specific with what you're looking at, especially tying them with kind of stacking the software. So I'd like to take a Sales Navigator list, which has a great list of filters there. You can filter out and then run those through some of the other softwares to kind of confirm your data. I found that to be a pretty solid approach. And then also just tweaking and finding that right formula. I mean, having the correct prompt or outreach message when you're contacting the people. I mean, that can make all the difference. So the one software I had mentioned, or I don't know if I had, Wallaxy is one that we use for an automated sales campaign, and pretty cost-effective software there. But you can essentially run multi-hit campaigns. Send an email. If they respond, this happens. If not,
yeah, you can build out the workflow or the kind of the workflow tree of how yes and no's and responses and clicks and all that type of stuff, and probably track it all. I'm assuming. I haven't heard of that one, but there's several in the marketplace.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And then one of the biggest topics that we talk about that I feel like is still almost unknown within the B2B space and all these new automation tools, but where, like if we're looking at, in terms of client acquisition, you guys obviously aren't selling a quick, e-com type of item, an umbrella or a pair of shoes or something, right? So you can't take a client from start to finish using AI tools and automation. There has to be some sort of human interaction in there. So where I think is the unknown, and I think every company's different, and I'm curious on your take on this, but where does that pendulum fall? Like if 100%, if 50-50 is 50% automations and AI, and then 50% human interaction, like finding that happy medium of, can you acquire a client with 70% automations and 30% human interaction? Or is your product or service 30% AI automations, but then more, human interaction heavy? And do you have any idea kind of where you fall or where you think you might be in that pendulum?
Yeah. No. I think it is a great question there. Pendulum's a great word there, because it is kind of ever swaying.
Yeah, it was actually because it about ding, 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 ding.
Right, absolutely. And then in our industry, especially, you can have these relationships go on, years and years, and you're building up sometimes these relationships with your buyer or procurement team for your end customer, and these develop over time. So really, it depends on that pendulum can depend on how they prefer, the more personal interaction, how much they want a quick little response and throughput. And I think that varies significantly. But there's always more development, more integration. And I think we're not really at the stage yet where it's so defined to where we're pulling back. There's always can we integrate automation for the quoting and for the estimations and for the outreach, as you're saying. There's various levels where it's trying to plug and pull, like you're saying. What is that exact formula to where we can get the maximum automation out, but still have that personalized touch with the customer? It's an ever swaying pendulum.
And I agree. And that's where, like, I went back to the original statement where I feel like that's kind of the unknown in the industry. And that's where a lot of these businesses or B2B businesses, like yourself, have to find where on that pendulum swinging back and forth, where is that, perfect combination of, hey, I can stretch the AI automations and maximize efficiencies, but I can't go past this certain point. And where is that certain point where you have to jump in and establish that human interaction? Or even once that human action is established, there's still ways that you can add trust and credibility with automations and follow-ups, but still incorporating, I feel like nowadays nobody just picks up the phone and calls people, right? Everyone's like, oh, let me shoot him a text message or let me send him an email. And I was like, and I'm telling, just call him, just pick up the phone and call him. Your phone number is right there. And people are so scared to have a conversation nowadays. And it's like, but then again, when you actually pick up and call somebody, it's crazy how much people appreciate an actual conversation and a human being on the phone at the same time. And that's where, like in this space, and this is what's so exciting about B2B businesses is that there is that unknown, and every company is, slightly unique and different depending on their clientele and what their wants and needs are. But yeah, there's so many ways to add the AI automations, but I feel like that the pitfall of a lot of businesses right now is trying to do too much, where they're like, we've had, from the AI consulting space, it's like, oh, well, I want to build something out so I never have to talk to a client. And I was like, dude, you just told me your clients pay you $10,000 a month, $120,000 a year. Would you buy something for $120,000 a year off just automations and text messages? No, like you gotta pick up the phone and do something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That interaction is absolutely necessary. And yeah, and as I said, you are at the end of the day building relationships. It is, and really it falls across every industry.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, with in your guys' case, it's probably multiple relationships, right? There's not one linchpin decision maker. You probably have to, when you're manufacturing the parts, and I don't want to sound naive here, but you're probably dealing with like designers, engineers, assembly people, and then you actually have the people that are paying for it, the finance people, the CEO. So I mean, I had a lady on the show who it was called big ticket hunting, with like big ticket sales, and she was saying that if you're going after six-figure yearly contracts, if your client is worth $100,000 a year or more to you, there's typically six decision makers, six stakeholders involved. And when you bump up and you're going after $500,000 to $1 million contracts, there could be upwards of 20 stakeholders or 20 decision makers involved that you as a sales guy or your sales team has to then build trust and credibility with 20 different people, build relationships with 20 different people, and win that, win that yes from 20 different people, which could obviously be very difficult if you're not organized, efficient, and things of that nature.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, that is absolutely right on the money. It's a vast network, especially when you get into some of these defense, primes there, where it can just be months and months of waiting for approvals on getting everything up the chain of command there. And there's also the flip side of it there too, where yes, you are building these 20 relationships that you need to kind of maneuver your way through, but there's also then 20 relationships that you are now exposed to, when those people eventually do move around, which obviously happens in every industry there too. So, you know what I mean? It pays back a little bit, but
That's a really good point. Somebody brought, I forget who it was a couple of weeks ago on an episode. Somebody had mentioned that, like, if you can land a big deal and get 20 stakeholders, it's almost guaranteed two of those stakeholders will be at another company within the next 6 months or 12 months. And now you have two new raving fans at new companies and puts in the door at those new companies.
absolutely. Yeah. And really word of mouth. I mean, for as much as the outreach and the campaigns and I would say it is about comparable. It's probably just about even with between that and word of mouth. I mean, it's such a significant player, especially in our industry, and there is so much movement. I mean, when you're talking about these companies, especially in aerospace, I mean, you got over 100 companies in the LA area alone. You're jumping from your SpaceX's to your vast space and relativity, rocket labs, and
Everybody's chasing that greener grass, right?
oh yeah, absolutely. But it helps. It helps spread your name around, and it is, as you're saying, you get your foot in the door with one, and you get a couple people that'll like you and will be that kind of advocate of a new organization, and it's paid off significantly a few times for us. So that's definitely it's definitely a factor.
Very cool. Now you had brought it up outside of the marketing in terms of incorporating AI, um, in part of the fulfillment process with proposals or estimates or invoicing and things like that. Is that something that you and the CIM have started looking into or started applying AI softwares and tools to, or is that still just more of like an idea of something that is possible in the near future?
Yeah, no. It's definitely something that we've started to look into integrating. There is a couple of companies, obviously, that have sort of legacy softwares that are now integrating AI tools. Paperless parts is a big one that a lot of the people in the industry will know that name. There's a few others that are kind of getting into that automated engineering, and CAD modeling has been a difficulty for a while. Just getting, especially when you're getting into precision parts with complex geometries and metrologies and everything, get a little bit above the software's head, but they are, as we know, getting better by the day.
And
So there
you
is,
guys obviously do all the stuff in house, because I can hear the machines going in the background. So it's not, you're not the middleman. You guys are actually producing the parts and everything right on site, right?
yes, absolutely, yeah. And apologies for the background.
It's authentic. It's all good, right? No, no apologies at all.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's the other exciting thing about the industry that you're in, or that's why I love working with these B2B businesses, is because oftentimes, like, your company's lucky to have you, because I mean, I'm 45, you're younger than I am. But you know, that younger generation is more open to this, more adept, better understanding. So I feel like a company like yours that's 30 years in the making, but then is smart enough to be like, hey, we need somebody from that kind of younger generation to help us implement it, help us kind of sift through and call bullshit on stuff when necessary, right? And kind of know what's going to work and what's not working. Um, and a lot of businesses, they don't even realize the ability to implement and automate so much more. It's not just, hey, some email AI SDR, which is what everybody's under the sun's trying to sell right now. But what about the rest of the processes? Like, how many times does a human pick up a pen and write something down? Because if that human's writing down 10 things or 20 things throughout a day, or recording or transcribing stuff, well, I bet you half of that stuff can be pushed over, and some AI automation or something to help make that person's day more efficient. There's a
absolutely.
lot that can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And just about in every department. I mean, when you really break down and think about it, how many times is your accounts receivable person reaching out to those customers for those late payments? And yeah, absolutely. So it is something constantly on front of mind for us that we are. And all respect to my more senior coworkers, everybody does have a very progressive mindset on that. So we have been able to quickly kind of jump around and kind of with caution, as we were discussing earlier. Every transition, every kind of implementation does need to be taken with caution. There can definitely be an overflow or flooding that can be too complex at times. But yeah, we've been able to manage that pretty well and been able to bring on some very useful software so far.
Perfect. And then working with larger companies, or working, say, even within the defense space, have you ran into any, like, barriers or restrictions with using data or using AI automations, where it's either secure information or private information? Or have you ran into any of those type of barriers or hiccups?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that is where it gets into really the hardest part of it is kind of understanding those restrictions there. You obviously, a lot of our work falls under kind of the ITAR regulations or the AS 9100, which is going to be for aerospace, ITAR obviously for defense. We get a lot of DO rated work. So there can be very strict security controls on there. In which case, obviously it's not like we can just throw some of these stuff in a chat GPT and kind of ask it questions. So there are those softwares which are kind of regulated ones and are already kind of confirmed, have their own certifications and filings there. But for the most part, it is how you can dance around what we can do in that instance. Hey, maybe it cannot be the engineering or the planning, of the part itself. But we can automate our RFQs that we're going to send out for the material quoting on that, or whatever it may be. And so there's various ways that we can kind of implement and expedite other elements of the process.
That's good. What about like, from another, say, marketing manager or somebody within an industrial manufacturer B2B business space? What are some of the I would say, like, what are maybe some lessons, some mistakes that you've made that maybe you've learned from, that you can help somebody else avoid?
Well, lessons in using them, overspending there, I would say. Kind of as we were talking about, you get into integrating 1, 2, 3, 4 softwares, you fall into the problem where you're not really using one or two. You may not be using a couple to the full extent of what you had realized, and also just falling into really not following up with the softwares that we already had, that we're already using, and everybody's evolving. Everybody is in this world, they're having to keep up. So it was a big shock to me how many of the legacy, our ERP system we were using, for example, where I gave them a call, their production manager or product managers there, and learn, there's features that aren't even enabled, that have been out and whatnot.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute, I'm paying for 3 other softwares, but the software I already had now does all this. And yeah, that's because everybody gets the deer in the headlights or the FOMO thing, right? Like, if I don't buy all these softwares, I'm going to be missing out. My competitors are going to use it. Then it's just, you end up you get 5 softwares and 3 don't get used and 2 get used half-assed. And then you're like, right back to where I started from. But that whole deer in the headlights FOMO is super common.
Totally. Yeah. Total common process, common problem there. And then just in the end of not really necessarily needing the softwares, paying for a membership, for I think it was one of those contact kind of identification contact finder softwares, which really just wasn't necessary. I mean, there was a free version of a different one that was doing basically all that, and or to the 90% of what it would give you for a paid membership. And it's just kind of doing a little bit more of the background research, I would say.
Yeah, so the advice is, 1, be a little bit patient. Like you don't have to change the world or change your entire company on, within a matter of a week or day. Then really do your research and figure out, what's needed. I mean, most people, it's, you ask them, why did you implement this AI software? And they're like, I don't know. It seemed cool. It seemed like it would work. And it's like, well, did you really map out a plan and figure out hey, here's everywhere that I think we can implement AI or a software or workflow or something along those lines. But here's what we really need. And what I tell people is, what's going to move the needle and then what's going to be convenient, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody has to answer to somebody, and that somebody's going to want to know, what's my ROI, right?
Absolutely.
Eric, if you're telling me I need to spend $5,000 on this AI software, how am I making $5,000 plus 1 every single month or greater, obviously? And I think that's where a lot of people use focus, is they just start stacking stuff and chasing that next shiny object, when it's like, look, what's going to move the needle and bring dollars in the door, and what's just going to send dollars flying out the door, right?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And just bottom line of, can you actually get the most value out of it? Do you have the resources involved? Because, as I'm sure well know, some of these softwares, you can buy it all day long. You still need someone even at minimum at a part-time role to be, utilizing these softwares, managing them and keeping up with them. So there is that other element that I think is overlooked a lot of the time. Some people will assume, I'll buy this software and that'll write off that position and I'll never have to worry about that. I can kick my feet up and kind of enjoy, as much as that would be awesome.
Yeah, not in this space. I mean, on an e-com brand, or, like I said, you're selling umbrellas or a tube of toothpaste or tennis shoes. I mean, that very well could be the case. But in our world, that B2B world, when you're talking about that pendulum going back and forth, there has to be a human interaction. There has to be somebody to establish that relationship, solidify that trust and credibility. Because at the end of the day, people buy from who they know, like, and trust. And if they don't know, like, and trust you, if you've just been, sending automated emails and having some voice AI system picking up the phone when they try to call you, they're not going to know, like, and trust you. And even if they're giving you business, you're leaving yourself wide open for somebody else to come in and build that trust and, steal your clients from your company.
Absolutely. And in this industry, I mean, if you're not being aware, that your customer is shopping, at least, at the very least shopping for pricing, if not dual sourcing your parts, you're being ignorant. So it is a constant fight. You do have to be constantly aware and constantly building that personal relationship in the ever building struggle of the automation.
That's actually brings up a really good point. Are you doing anything, whether it be automated or on that personal touch, to help solidify that relationship? So once the client comes in and places that first order, do you still, like, quote unquote, like, market and do things to stay in front of that client to keep them updated and continue to position yourself as the authority and the best person for the job?
Yeah. So as far as automating that kind of outreach and follow up, has been some ideas floated around there, but not too much so that we have started to implement. It's definitely been more the traditional, picking up the phone, giving them a call. Super fortunate enough to have great relationships with some of my customers there, where a text isn't uncommon. Where also I'm a big proponent with my whole team. Hey, I'll book a flight, get up to the Valley area, get out to Colorado, go visit your customers, show face. I think it goes a significant way there. So I think you got to get down to basics a little bit there. Where you can develop that automation, I'm sure, as we're saying, there's probably a gap you can find, you can probably start to implement. Haven't really started to touch on that too much yet, but definitely has been something on mind.
Again, there's levels and steps to it, obviously, and that's not what I call that bleeding neck syndrome, where it's like, hey, that has to happen, and obviously you gotta work within it. Um, how many? I didn't ask you before, but how many salespeople do you manage there?
Yeah, so currently we actually downsized. We were at about six. We're currently at around four. We have a part-time associate that kind of helps out the sales team a little bit there, but we have been able to kind of slim down, manage our clients a little bit, possibly through a little bit of the automation of processes there. But yeah, currently we have a team. It's four and myself, and we run for the most part. We have customers kind of segregated up, and then obviously help out. Give a hand there when need be.
Okay, perfect. And then are you, I know you mentioned obviously you're fortunate enough to be in a location where a lot of your ideal clients are clustered together, but do you still market on a national level, all 50 states?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as I mentioned, we are flying around. We're doing a lot of work actually with some customers in New York. We have customers over in the uh, kind of the Michigan area there, few in Colorado and around. So we do get a fair bit. We get out there. We'll be actually at the there's a missile symposium show in Huntsville, Alabama later this year, or later this next year. We'll be out there, planning to travel around. So we get out quite a bit. We're constantly marketing around. We do a fair bit of international work here and there. We have a couple of international customers. Obviously, with tariffs, it's been getting more difficult, and you're competing with those markets. So that can be a little more troublesome. But absolutely, we do quite a bit of work with different areas. Colorado's a big hotbed, kind of growing currently, especially with the aerospace, kind of robotics, that whole industry there. There's
Assuming probably Texas too.
absolutely Texas is a huge one. You got giant. I think it's like 18 of the 20 largest aerospace companies are out there in Texas. Yeah, big pockets over there. So all around, really, we're jumping. Definitely doing some outreach with some of the newer companies in this space. There's Saronic, which is a newer one, and Havoc, which are more maritime based, but doing more of the automation. Obviously, Anduril, big automation proponent. So it's interesting. The whole industry is kind of swaying, or at least the customer end is kind of swaying towards automation, and it's seemingly slowly making its way down towards the levels of the whole of the whole chain.
Gotcha. And then, shoot, I had a good question right on the tip of my tongue, and now I'm forgetting what it was.
So,
um, Oh, from the national standpoint, is that you just incorporate that into your email marketing, or how do you go past there? I mean, you obviously, it sounds like you give your sales guys permission and a budget to travel and shake hands and build relationships on that level as well.
yeah, absolutely, and yeah, like I had mentioned before, a lot of great softwares. Sales Navigator is a great one. I encourage, it's a little bit of a pricier one, but try it for a bit, to people. There's regional kind of filters there. You can specify where your outreach you're wanting to look for there, industry wise. But yeah, it's really, we throw it out. We try to stay, as I was saying, try to stay national. But a lot of the bigger expos too, if you're going, a lot of them that I've kind of dropped, the Space Tech Expo there in Long Beach. A lot of them will bring kind of a national crowd around. So
Gotcha. People fly in, and you can get everybody huddled together in one area.
Absolutely. And then you're able to kind of, break bread there a little bit. And it helps to kind of put the name out there. And as I had mentioned before, I mean, word of mouth is such a huge factor in our industry. Like just today, just onboarding a customer over the last couple of days, got NDAs kind of finalized, but they're out in New York, and it was all a word of mouth from another customer we're doing kind of that in that area. So it's such a big factor that comes into play there. Old machinists of ours, old administrative employees that go and work in other areas, our customers going and working in other areas. It is a really interconnected industry. So those relationships play a role.
Gotcha. I just remembered my question. If yes, how, I mean, this industry,
A little bit.
Still with me, Eric? Or
Yeah, I can hear you a little bit, but I'm seeing you're frozen. I'm not sure. Oh, there you go. Looks like you just came back.
There we go. Modern technology. Gotta love it.
Right.
My question is do you have any idea how much of your total addressable market that you're actually in communication with and reaching out to? I mean, if you had 100,000 potential customers across the nation, how many people do you actually have in your database and your community? How many of your addressable market actually knows about you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would put it at a probably comfortable 5 to 20% there. When you're honestly thinking about it, it's so hard to get the outreach there and get that word out. It's such a large market there. Definitely ground to be gained. I would say, yeah.
Which is honestly, and that's the if it was legitimately 20%, I'd be surprised. I mean, and that's where almost every B2B business is in that same boat. Successful multi-million dollar a year business, things of that nature. But you operate and find a lot of success just in that small little kind of what I call that little corner or that sliver of your marketplace. And you get comfortable there, it works, you get some referrals, but then it's like, well, Jesus, what if the other 95% knew about you? Like, what would happen then, right?
Absolutely. No. It is always that question there. Yeah. But it's really something though too. We've had to kind of manage having the right customers and finding what suits better for that relationship there. It is in the end a two-way street there too. So that's been a little bit of a fight, and finding what's been a beneficial mix. And we've been very fortunate to get a good mix of some customers now. As you say, finding that kind of little sliver that we've been able to just foster there. It's been good.
Very cool. Well, Jesus, I said 30 minutes, but we're already approaching 40 minutes. I guess time flies when you're having fun, right? This has been very helpful, very, very helpful. I really appreciate your honesty, kind of pulling the rug back or pulling the covers back and showing, telling our audience what you've been doing, what's working, what's not working, giving some good tips and that type of stuff. But as we sign off here, I used to ask people for their favorite book, but then I realized, like myself, I don't read a lot, admittedly. I'm into more podcasts. But is there in terms of marketing, client acquisition, something that helps your role? Is there a book or a podcast that you would like to recommend to the audience?
Yes. There is one. I have it on my desk downstairs, and I wish I would have it on me. It is a read. I've had went through it once. I'm currently skimming through it. I believe the title is correct me if I'm wrong here. I want to look it up, but it's making friends, how to influence people and make friends, I believe. And I might be butchering that title currently.
Like How to Win Friends and Influence People, the Dale Carnegie book.
That would be it. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. No, that definitely heard of that book. I mean, if you're in the if you're in the business space and you haven't read that book at least once or twice, I don't know what rock you've been living under. Let's be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was one of our consultants had kind of thrown over to me about a year back, and I gave it a read. I'm currently just cracking the pages, getting back through it, just give it another read. Kind of let it go away, and then kick it back through. So currently in the read, but yeah, great one there.
Yeah, no, that's a phenomenal book, especially in your business where it is relationship building, where those clients borderline become friends, and that type of situation. That's a phenomenal. It is a very popular one. I don't know if anybody's ever recommended that one yet, but that's a good one. I'll make sure we put it in the show notes and put a link to it as well in the notes, and then. As we sign off here, I really appreciate your time. Like I said, this has been super powerful, super, I think, insightful for the audience. So if anybody is in this particular space, could possibly use CIM or needs to get in touch with Eric, the easiest way, it's cimsd.com is the website, correct?
Correct. Yes, that'll be the website there. Yeah, we're right out of San Diego there. So yeah.
Perfect. Or you can connect with Eric on LinkedIn, jump on the website, reach out to him if you could possibly feel like you could benefit from their services and their manufacturing. Don't forget to like or subscribe this show on YouTube, or if you're watching a clip on Instagram or any of the other 1,400 social media platforms this goes out to. But don't forget to like and subscribe. I appreciate your time. Hopefully you found value in this, and stay tuned for another episode in a few days. And Eric, thank you very much for your time again, and appreciate everybody's time listening to the show, and can't wait to talk to everybody again soon. Take care, everyone.